Hey guys, it's been a while since I've put out a longer video, so get your popcorn. This one's gonna be a long one. We're gonna be going over lightening really dark hair, how to saturate, lifting, power, developer, all of that stuff. So if you guys are interested in this color, then keep watching. You can follow me over on Instagram at Christy at the Cottage.
Okay, so I'm getting ready to do my client, and she has very dark hair. It's probably like naturally a level 2, like it's very, very dark, very coarse hair. And I'm going to be going in with my Schwarzkopf lightener, and I'm just going to be using 20 volume. I know that I talked about this before, but I feel like a lot of people think like the darker the hair, the higher the volume, which is not really true. I feel like I get the best lift like around 20 volume. Sometimes even 7 volume gets me really good lift, but because she does have such dark hair, I'm going to be going in with 20 volume developer, and that's because if you use like 30 or 40 volume, it has a stronger like push of power, but it dies off a lot faster. So, you know, if it takes you like 30 to 45 minutes per bowl of bleach to apply the color, by the time you get to the end of that application for that bowl, that power and the lift is kind of already expired. So then you're not going to get as good of lift. So sometimes when people say like, oh, I can't lift it very well or get that great of lift, a lot of the reason is because your power is already gone. So, that's why I like to use 20 volume, because it's a slower lift, but it's even and it lasts longer. So that's why I like going in with my 20 volume. I really feel like Schwarzkopf Blonde Me, it gets 9 levels of lift, and it's honestly one of the best bleaches that I really love for extremely dark hair. I know that I use the blonde solutions, but I'm very, very selective with who I use that on, because it's sold out all the time. And it's like you really have to use a lot. So I'm going to be using my Schwarzkopf for that reason. So Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with 20 volume. It's going to get you the best lift. Also, don't make huge bowls of bleach. Like, charge accordingly for how many bowls of bleach you have to use. But if you're gonna use, like, if you have somebody that has a lot of hair, like, don't mix this big ass bowl of bleach, because it's gonna get weakened out like the longer the application goes. And then by the time you're at the end of that bowl of bleach, like, that section still isn't gonna get as good of lift as like when you first started applying. So for somebody that has really thick coarse hair, I do mix a little bit more, because you do have to get really good heavy saturation. So I am going to mix a little bit more, but only because I know that it's probably really not going to last me that long because of how thick and coarse her hair is. So we're going to mix right now. I'm going to be using Olaplex, and we kind of talked about pricing and what she wants. She wants it like pretty heavy. We're going for like more of a cooler caramel color. So that's what we're going to be doing today.
Okay, that was an earful, but here's my lightener that I'm going to be using, and the consistency is going to be nice and thick to get heavy saturation. Okay, here's her before. You can see she has some grout from probably like 2 years ago, and I kind of like this because it will add a little bit of warmth to her hair, where we're going to be doing like a warmer tone, but it's going to be kind of like a cooler caramel tone. So having that extra color in her hair will add a nice little bit of dimension. And so everybody was asking me to kind of show my parting that I do for my sectioning, but I don't really do a lot of sectioning. I kind of just like pin the hair aside or whatever, but I don't always do like 4 quadrants. So if I don't ever show my sectioning, it's because I don't really section. I just kind of, you know, section off one little part of the hair and like move around the head, and that's it. So to start, the picture that she showed me was kind of like an ombre, where it was kind of subtle through the root area and more solid through the ends. So that's what we're going to be doing, is leaving out little bits of dimension, but saturating heavily to give it a nice ombre effect through the ends. Okay, I want to show you this really quick. Where I'm pointing at, look at that. If you guys get uneven lift or like cheetah prints in your sectioning, it's because of stuff like that. You need to make sure that you're covering your ground. If you find little lines, or if you undo the foil and you see that there's little creases or whatever, make sure you're going back over those little pieces and resaturating to make sure you don't have uneven lift. If you have uneven application, it's going to give you an uneven lift. So make sure that you're covering everything and saturating the hair nice and evenly. Also, I want to say she doesn't want like a definite money piece or heavy highlights around the face or anything. She doesn't want to be super bright like that. So because of that, I'm not going around her hairline at all and doing any foils up to the hairline. She wants everything to be kind of rooty and to be able to let it grow out again. So that's why I'm kind of just starting throughout the hair instead of hitting her hairline. And here I want to show you guys accurate saturation. That is very thick, heavily saturated. Yes, it takes a lot of bleach. And on this side, I'm going to show you the difference between what I see some stylists do, which is why they don't get as good of lift, because they just, like, I see some stylists just slap the bleach on, and it's actually was really hard for me to like do less because I'm so used to like slapping it on there and getting it nice and thick. So it was kind of hard to show you guys. I was trying to scrape it because I actually see people do this really light amount of bleach, and that's why they're not getting good lift. So look at this. You can see through to the hair. That is not thick bleach. That is not good saturation. Versus look at, here we go. So you can see that. You can see through to the hair, versus look at the other side. It's super thick, super creamy. You can see layers and layers of bleach on the hair, versus this. That is not going to get good lift at all. You really got to make sure you're laying it on there thick, especially with dark hair, if you want to get good lift. So we're just going to close this foil up, and then I'm going to go through and finish reapplying to this section so you guys can see exactly how much more bleach I'm applying. The less bleach, the less lift you're going to get. You want to make sure you're adding enough bleach on there to where it's going to have lots of time to process. If you don't have enough bleach, it's going to dry out. It's not thick enough to like saturate the hair to get good lift, all of that stuff. So make sure that you're really saturating the hair. How many times can I say the word saturation in this whole video? Somebody count, because we're laying it on thick today. I'm kind of staggering at my sections, but I also wanted to mention that every few sections, you'll see me go up a little bit higher into the root area. And that's because we want to kind of have a melted effect. If everything is just down from like the mid shaft, midsection to the ends, then you're not going to have a nice blend. So every few sections, I'm going to go up a little bit higher, probably within an inch, inch and a half into the root. So that way she'll have a nice rooty look, but she'll still have a little bit of dimension to break her roots up just slightly, enough to feel like, you know, if somebody says that they want to have some roots and everything, that doesn't mean that they want to grow. They don't want to walk out of the salon with a whole bunch of roots. Sometimes it means that they want to have like a rooty look, but they still want to have some soft dimension in that area. So make sure you talk to your client and see what they prefer, because there's a difference between like ombre, which is extremely rooty, like nothing up in the root area, like a true ombre, you know, and then kind of fading through the midsection, through like heavily saturated, through the ends of like solid blonde or solid whatever your color you're doing. So, but because of here, I want to make sure she has some soft dimension So every few sections, we're going to bring the bleach up just a little bit closer into her root area. Again, because she wants it to be nice and heavy through the ends, but she does want to have a little bit of her natural dimension kind of breaking up the ends of the hair, even though she does want it really kind of heavy. I'm going to go through and just paint through some of the ends of the hair, and this is going to help create that kind of a color melt effect where, because we're kind of adding the bleach in different levels of the hair, some closer up to the root, some more in the midsection, and in some of these areas I'm really just going straight through the ends. That's going to help give it a really nice blend from like nice and rooty to kind of softer and then more solid through the ends. But we're also going to weave just a little bit of her natural just to give it a little bit more of dimension and some contrast also, because she doesn't want to feel like, you know, too solid. She wants to be solid, not too solid. You know what I mean? Just soft dimension. And then after I finish applying everything, then you'll see me kind of go through again and like pick and choose little pieces of hair because, you know, I don't want to leave too much of her natural behind. All right, so now that we're done with this back section, I'm actually going to be pinning aside this midsection to the top crown area and start in the front section. But first I wanted to show you guys my bleach. Look at how thick this is. It's nice and thick. Here we go again for that saturation. That's the key word today. Word of the day is saturation. I feel like I'm on Sesame Street and I'm like teaching you guys the benefits of saturation, and I need like the Count Dracula to like pop up with the letter S and spell out saturation. Somebody make it happen. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. So we're going to go in right now and do her quote unquote money piece, not money piece because she doesn't want it too bright and chunky or whatever, but we do want it a little bit brighter. So we're going to go through, kind of weave out that front section to give it a little dimension, back comb it, and we're painting probably within an inch, inch and a half of her hairline. So also, make sure you tell your clients to shut their damn eyes. There is nobody that needs to get a speck of bleach in their eye. So always make sure to tell your clients, close your eyes. We don't want to bleach your eyeball out. So again, just going in through here, and I feel like people ask me sometimes, why do I start on the hairline? Because it lifts so fast. But I didn't want to start directly here. Like, that's why I started in the back, because I knew it needed to sit longer. So here I'm starting because it does have a long time to process because of how coarse her hair is. Very, very coarse and thick. So I want to make sure that we start on the hairline in her facial framing area to make sure we get the dimension and the brightness that we want. And that way it has time to sit and process, because I don't want to come here last. And then by the time all of her hair is ready to rinse out, you know, this section hasn't processed long enough or it's not ready or whatever. So that's why I like to go through and do the hairline first. And then if you have to wash or pull the foils and wipe the bleach off earlier, then you can. So because she doesn't want like too chunky of a money piece or too bright or anything, I'm only doing that first weave directly on her hairline, and then everything after that is going to be kind of underneath where her hair falls on her part. So she parts her hair straight down the center because she's not in her 30s and she's a Gen Z. If you're a millennial, you know what I'm talking about, because you part your hair on the side. Okay? Our moms don't tell us how to do our hair. We make our own choices. So she parts her hair down the center. And so that kind of makes it nice and even. Technically, it normally would, but one side falls actually very, very thick. And I had to re-go through and do like a whole bunch of more application than the other side. So you can see here, I'm going underneath where her hair falls. And this is going to kind of connect her front money piece section to the side. And this is going to help kind of bring a lot of brightness towards her face. But it's not going to be so bright that she's going to feel like washed out or anything, because everything is kind of falling underneath. So she's still going to have that dimension up top, but then kind of directly underneath that first layer of her hair where that dimension is at the roots, she's going to have all this nice brightness kind of showing through underneath her hair. So I'm just going to finish sectioning off this area behind her ears. And then again, because we're not going directly up onto her hairline, I'm going to kind of just take this bottom section, kind of back comb it pretty heavily. And then we're going to bring it up a little bit closer to her hairline, kind of feather it up into there. That way she gets some of that brightness up into her root area, but it's not directly on her hairline. So she's still going to have softer grow out, but still have a slight brightness around her face without feeling too heavy. All right, so I'm just going to flip-flop back and forth between the sections. So I'm just going to continue this on this side of the head, what we just did on the other side, and then I'm going to keep going back and forth. So we're really trying to focus right now just right along her hairline and getting her a little bit brighter underneath where her hair naturally falls. Again, not trying to go too bright or anything, but just kind of feathering up closer towards her face and then kind of dropping the feathering down a little bit further towards the back section of the parting that we're doing. So again, here you can see that I'm kind of angling it just slightly higher towards her face, and that's going to create a little bit more of a softer, more subtle brightness towards the face, and then slightly angled down to kind of drop that shadow a little bit more towards the back. So this is kind of what I noticed, that this side of her head actually is much more thick than the other side. So if you see me going through and doing more foils on this side of the head, that's why. And I feel like this is everybody has a thicker side and a thinner side, but it's kind of rare when you have a client who drastically has a much thicker side. And so that can kind of create some difficulties with your application, because it was really hard for me to try to figure out, like, okay, I have to do more sectioning on this side and more applications, but if I do too much application, then this side is going to be a lot brighter than the other side, but I can't leave too much dimension out on that side and not enough on this side, because then there's not going to be enough balance. So it's really hard to try and find that like perfect combination of enough sections or enough bleach packets or whatever. And I feel like this also comes into the cost of the service. This takes a lot of education and practice and just years of making mistakes, honestly, and just getting better over time, and like understanding that you can't, if somebody parts their head down the center, you cannot go through and do the same exact thing on every side of the head and have it turn out perfect. It's not going to happen. And go to somebody who might be brand new in school, or maybe this isn't their specialty, and they're not going to understand that. And that's why the cost of some of these services go up, is because you're paying for the knowledge that the service provider has. And we'll get into that a little bit later, going over the cost and pricing and, you know, why things cost the way that they do or whatever. So a lot of it is just education and learning from your own mistakes on, oh crap, I thought I did enough, but this side is brighter than the other side. I should have added more. And that's totally fine. That's how we all get better. But this client specifically, I felt like was kind of difficult, because I was really nervous, actually. And I think it's okay to say that. I was nervous that I was oversaturating on the one side because it was so much heavier than the other side. But in the end, everything turned out okay. Like, I mean, look at this. I still have this whole huge section that I have to go through, and I was really worried that she was going to have way too much brightness on one side, but knowing where to leave that dimension, how much dimension to leave, and all of that stuff really comes in with creating the overall look and knowing exactly where to find the balance between each sides of the head. Okay, so when somebody wants a blended, like money piece, kind of a rootier look, I like taking this triangle section right here, just kind of going a little bit deeper of a section, going straight across where they part their hair, weaving it, this whole section, weave it out, back comb it, and that's going to kind of create a natural blend because that section at the very tip of that triangle, right where it meets the money piece at the very front of the hairline to kind of like the top of the crown area where the middle of their part is, you're pulling all of that hair forward and it's going to kind of create this natural dropped effect. So we're going to pull everything forward, back comb it, weave it, and then we're going to paint it and feather it. And that's going to help it have a soft blend. It's just going to kind of naturally create a little bit of an over-directed, like facial framing money piece that blends softly into the back. And I really like that for people that don't want it necessarily like super bright, super heavy, but they just want it kind of like softer and more subtle and more of a rooty look. I feel like that just kind of naturally does it for you without having to like trying to figure out how much work to do, whatever. It just kind of takes the guesswork out of it. So that's one of the things that I really like doing is that kind of triangle section just right after that front foil of the money piece. Okay, now that we're at the top section of her hair, this is where I'm going to be going in and doing a little bit more finer details because this is the hair that's going to be laying on top. So some of it is going to be going up more of like a finer foil, a little bit closer up to the root area, and then some of it I'm going to be dropping down a little bit further to make sure we have enough of that rooted look at the very, very top. So we're just going to finish this top section out and then repeat on the other side. And here, as I'm getting to the very top layer of the head, you can see that this is dropping down a little bit further. I'm still feathering some points up into the root area, but more like 1.5 to 2 inches away from the roots. And this is going to help create more of that shadow and a little bit more of a rootier look on the very, very top, but underneath is where the brightness is gonna be. So everything is gonna blend really nicely still, but the brightness is gonna be more underneath, so that way she doesn't have to worry about like heavy grow out, but she'll still have that dimension kind of flowing underneath the hair. And then again, as with the other side that we just did, I'm going to be taking this dropout section. That rootiness is still going to be there to create that dimension, but we're going to go through and paint through some of the ends. That way it flows really nicely to be a little bit brighter and more saturated and brighter through the ends. So now, actually, because again, this side was so much heavier, I still have more that I have to do. So I'm going to go through and just finish popping in a few more foils on this side and then finally be done. Okay, now that we're finally done with both sides of the head, we're going to start in this back section. And here I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a layering effect with my foils. I'm not going to really do a whole bunch of subsections. So I'm just going to kind of pick the hair up where it naturally falls. I'm going to kind of weave it a little bit and back comb it. And this first foil that I'm doing right here, I'm going to be going up a little bit closer into the root area, just to like match the sides, probably like within 1.5 to 2 inches of the very root area. And then we're going to heavily paint through the ends of the hair. And then the following sections after this, I'm actually not going to be taking any subsections. These first 3 foils, A lot of people ask me about like color melting and how to get a good blend, and this is how I feel like it works best for me is take the very first section, do it a little bit more of a finer of a section, weave it, back comb it, paint it a little bit higher up into the root area. This next section, you can see we didn't take any subsections. We're still weaving it, we're still back combing it, but you can see that I'm painting it just a little bit further down and not so higher up into the root area. And this is going to help create that softer dimension into the roots. But again, we're creating that layer of color where that first section is just really fine. You're going to see just a little bit of pieces up into the root area. And then when everything falls down, when everything's said and done, this second section that we're doing right here is going to kind of add a little bit more of that layer of brightness that's going to fall underneath that first foil that we're doing. And now this third section that we're doing, we're going to drop it down even further down, maybe just like the midsection through the ends. And that's going to help create even more of a blend. So again, every section we're leaving a little bit more of a root, but saturating through the ends. And so that's going to help create that nice blend where everything just kind of flows together a little bit more nicely. Here I'm going to kind of show you how far down that shadow is of a root in this little section. It's a good couple inches right there. This next section right here, a little bit less. And then this top section is up even tighter. So I know that feels like a lot of foil for one section, but if you see actually like that section as a whole really wasn't that large. So, you know, she's still going to be rooty, but it's not going to be like such a heavy amount of roots that she's going to feel too dark all over. So because we did that, again, I know I kind of talked about it in that first section at the very beginning of the video application. I'm gonna kind of be staggering these next few foils. Some of them are going to go up a little bit higher into the root section. So because I'm dropping these ones down a little bit further down through the ends of the hair, these next few sections, you can see that I'm trying to be very specific of where I'm grabbing the hair. I'm going to be taking these a little bit finer. I'm going to back comb it, and actually these sections right here, I'm going to be painting up a little bit higher into the root area. And that's because I want her to still have some dimension up into the roots, but I don't want her to feel too rooty. So because we did such heavy roots in the last few sections, these next few sections that I'm going to be doing is going to be going up higher into the root area. So I'm pulling that hair up, trying to get those pieces, and then you'll see that I'm going to be painting it up quite a bit closer into the roots to get a little bit more brightness up in that area. Another question that I get sometimes is, am I saturating the whole section that I'm foiling. And if you haven't gotten the picture yet today from how many times, like, we've talked about saturation. Yes, when I do more of a foilayage, which is the majority of the work that I do, I 100% saturate through the whole section. I don't just like paint on the very top of the hair or anything. I make sure that I like get the bleach heavily through that whole section that I'm foiling, and that's going to really help you get more lift. I feel like a lot of clients, when they come to me, I feel like their goal is to get really bright or much lighter. And if you're just painting like a typical balayage, you can only get, in my experience, you can only get so much lift. Or if you're just painting on the top, then you're only getting like that brightness at the very top, but then you're leaving a lot of dimension that's not getting touched on the underneath. So for me, when I foil and do my applications, I really like to make sure I'm saturating all the way through and feathering up just at the root to kind of blend it out, but that's what's going to help you get better lift. And I feel like this is the world's longest application. And if you guys are still hanging on, then the Lord bless you from the heavens above, because I know that this is a really long video, but a lot of the video is just the application. So if you guys are still watching, then leave like 500 thumbs ups, because like there's just a lot of talking and a lot of like reapplication of the same thing over and over again. So I'm just gonna let the video finish playing out right now. We're just gonna finish touching up through the ends of the hair, and then we're gonna go through and just pinpoint some of these pieces through the very, very ends that I don't want to leave too much dimension. Now that we've gone through and done like our interior brightness and everything, I'm going to kind of go through and see the rest of the hair that's kind of still falling out. We don't want to leave that much dimension, so I'm going to start going through and picking through some of that and just kind of going through and adding through the ends of the hair. Add through to the list of how many times we can keep count of that word also. Oh my God. I know there's going to be somebody sitting there thinking like, how many times does she have to say the word through? Okay. What is another word that I can use for through? I cannot think of anything. I can't think of it. Somebody get me a thesaurus. Okay, I just want to let you know that I looked up on a thesaurus other words that I could use for the word through, since I know somebody's going to come at me in the comment section and tell me to stop saying through. How many times do I have to say through? Okay, enough. I can say it enough times. And the words that it came up with were around, encircling, surrounding, and throughout. So if you would prefer me to, I can go through and say, make sure that you're applying the bleach enough that it is surrounding the hair. That the bleach is encircling the whole section of the hair. There we go. Okay, back to what we all came here for. So I'm going to go through and reapply in areas that she's still kind of sitting at like a level 8 or so, because we want to get it a little bit lighter than that. So, and right now is the point that if she was trying to actually go blonde, I would probably go through with a 30 volume and get all of the foils that are stuck at like a level 8, 9 and just reapply everything to just bump her up to get her nice and bright. But she does not want to be blonde. This kind of makes the job easier because you can get her to like a level 8.5, 9 or whatever and be comfortable there, because we're going to be toning down through the brassiness anyways, and that warmth will kind of work in our favor because she does want to be warm, but she kind of wants to be a little bit more of a cooler warm. Like you can see right there, that's still a little bit too brassy. So I'm reapplying, and then I'm going to let that sit for about like 15 more minutes. And intermission time.
Okay, for this little clip, because she's processing right now, if you don't want to hear what I have to say about like pricing and the cost of products and whatever, then go ahead and skip forward like maybe 5 minutes or so. Hey guys, just a little intermission while my client is processing. So far I've had to refill her, well, not so far, I'm done with her application, which by the way, her application has taken probably like, maybe like 2.5 hours or so. And we ended up doing a full foilayage, balayage or whatever. But I kind of want to like address, people have told me like, oh, don't come across like petty or bitchy or whatever, because then it puts off your subscribers. So I'm really just trying to like educate people that are clients or other hairstylists that are like, you charge too much or whatever. So I'm going to try not to like sound bitchy, even though that's kind of what I am. Not all the time, but like I definitely can be. But so I had somebody recently be like, $450 for a color, that's way too much. And they're like, bleach and product doesn't cost that much or whatever. And that is true. However, that's not the reason for the overall cost of the service. Like that definitely adds to the service. So my client that I'm doing right now, I've had to refill her bleach probably like 4 times, and every time I've refilled her bleach, I end up doing 2 scoops plus Olaplex, just because of how heavy of saturation I have to do. So that's where a lot of the cost comes in. Oh God, my math sucks. So what is, hold on. Okay, I'm back. So 8 extra bowls of bleach. Son of a bitch. Oh, I forgot to do 2 scoops. I only did it for 1 extra. Hold on. Okay, no, I was right the first time. I swear I'm not a crackhead. So 8 bowls of bleach times $15 per extra bowl of bleach, because that it used to be just $10, but with the Olaplex, I do 5 extra dollars. So $15 per extra bleach at 8 extra scoops equals $120. Why is that so difficult for me to figure out? I don't know, but like I suck at math and I can acknowledge that about myself. So $120 extra dollars just of bleach costs. That doesn't include the toner, which how much hair she has and how much toner I'm gonna have to use. A toner is $25, but I'm gonna have to do 2 toners, so then that is $50. So that's like $170 extra of just product usage. And sure, when I go buy the product at the beauty supply store, no, it does not cost me that much for that specific color, that much bleach or whatever. But can we also address something? Like, we have a gal here that's gonna start doing Botox, and she's talking about how she charges like however much per unit. Do I think that's how much it costs her to purchase? No. Am I gonna question her on her prices? No. When you go get your braces done, I've had braces before. You just have the stupid little brackets on your teeth for 5 damn years, and all like the wire, and it's like thousands and thousands of dollars. People go and get that done, or Invisalign, the plastic. Like, there is nothing in the world that people are paying just base price of the cost of that specific product ever. Like, unless you're creating it yourself and utilizing your own products, like, you're never gonna pay for something what the base price is. So why do people think as a hairstylist that the product isn't that expensive, so we shouldn't be charging that much? I just think it's kind of ridiculous and frustrating. This is where I can feel me getting a little bit bitchy, so I apologize. But I just think it's kind of frustrating when people look at hairstylists and are like, or like photographers or makeup artists or whatever, like anybody in the service industry, I feel like it's really discredited about like their services that they give because their products aren't expensive or whatever. Like, the reality is, like, nothing is expensive, but the prices get jacked up because they can, and because people will pay for it, or because that's what the general cost is for whatever industry you're in. So if I say that the service, like, when I honestly, so we started talking at the beginning of her service, and she was asking how much it would be, and I told her one color that I did, kind of like what she wanted, was like $500, but she doesn't have as long and as thick of hair as that client that I did, so her hair might be like $450 or whatever. Well, when I started getting into her hair, I realized like how fast her hair was able to go through, so I thought I might not have to charge her as much as I thought I was going to. But after having to go through and like keep like it, she had one side of her head falls really heavy, a lot more hair than the other side, and so I thought I might not have to charge her as much. But then after doing that and how much color and whatever I ended up using, I realized that yeah, I'm probably going to. But like, I told her $450 at the most, but that gives me the chance to like know at the most that's what it's going to be. But if it doesn't end up costing that much, like I can drop the price down if I don't end up having to use that much product. So anyways, we'll just have to see, because also I might have to go back through and resaturate her hair just to get better lift. So there's so many things that go into why things cost a certain amount or whatever. Like, you could tell me that I'm charging too much. Go to somebody that doesn't have the education, doesn't have the product knowledge, doesn't saturate, whatever, like all those things that equal a good service, and pay $200 for the same thing and tell me what one are you happier with. Would you rather just pay the $450 and know that you're getting a good job done, the time and effort is going to go into a good service? Or would you rather pay $200, not have the right products, not have whatever, be rushed in the service, and then walk out with something that you're not happy with? So that is where I feel like, you know, the more education somebody gets, or the more techniques that they learn, or the more practice and time that they spent behind the chair and evolving who they are as a stylist, like that's where the prices can go up. So anyways, I'm just gonna leave it at that because people keep on coming in and out and I feel like a dumbass talking to my phone. So I'm going to go check her and see where we're at now and finish the service.
All right, now that I've let her hair sit for quite a bit, I'm going to go back through and check her foils, and it looks like we have the lift that we're wanting, so we're just going to head over and wash her out now.
Okay, so we're toning right now, and she lifted really good. She's like at a level 9, probably level 8 in some spots. If she was actually going for blonde, I would have reapplied, but that's not what we're going for. She wants like a probably like a level 6, 7, like kind of a caramely color, but kind of cool at the same time, like not too caramely, like soft and a little bit ashier. So I'm going to switch something up. So I am looking through my colors, my formulation. I'm actually going to throw quite a bit of things together. So I'm going to use a level 6 to give her some depth in her tone. I'm going to use 721 to kind of cool down the warmth in the rest of the formulation that I'm going to be using. And then I have 7-4 and 7-2-4. So the 7-4 is a medium blonde beige. The 7-2-4 is a medium blonde ash beige. So I have these two that I'm going to be using also. And the reason why I'm using both of those is because I don't have enough of just one of them. So I'm just going to throw them back together because they both have that like beige tone that we're wanting. If I had just 7-2-4, like that would be better because it has that ashiness in it also, but I don't, so that's cool. That's why we're going to use the 7-2-1. And the way that I'm going to use it is probably the majority, probably like half of my formulation is going to be the 6, just 6-0. And then I'm going to do equal parts of the 7-4, 7-2-4 will probably be like the other half of my formulation. And just to cancel out a little bit of the warmth that I don't want it to be too warm, I'm going to do like just a smidge of the 7-2-1 just to cool it down slightly. And then also I'll be using Agora Vibrance, the 6 volume right there. So that's what we'll be toning with for her overall color. I'm probably gonna let it sit for like 15 minutes or so.
Just to be 100% real with you guys, okay, so I let this sit for probably 15 minutes, and let me tell you the level of panic that I was having. Look at how ashy this was grabbing, and I really love the Schwarzkopf. Like in some of these areas where the light's hitting, you can see the warmth showing through, but that ash is just, it really grabbed, and I didn't rinse it out. I wanted to. I actually did feel like it was a little too ashy, so I did take a clarifier shampoo and just wash it once with a clarifier, and I'm just kind of like rough drying it right now to see the color because I told her we could retone if we need to. And actually the color ended up being perfect. But let me tell you guys, I was panicking because I thought it was going to be just super ashy with no warmth at all. And I am so glad that I just waited it out, but I just want to let you know, like, these moments of panic are real, and they happen even for stylists like me who's been in the industry for like 17 years. Like, you just never know how much is a color gonna grab. The Agora Vibrance, I really loved the line so much because the coolness really helps cancel out the brassiness. It is such a strong coolness to it, but like I thought that it was just gonna overwhelm the color, but it ended up working out and being perfect. But sometimes if you feel like it just overtones a little bit, just run like a clarifier through the hair and just pull the overtone out of the ashiness, and that should help like brighten it up a little bit more if you feel like it grabbed too much, which it did in my case, and I just want to share that with you guys. So anyways, now we're just going to go through. I just wanted to show you guys how her hair was straightened before we go through and color or curl it. So now we're just going to go through and style the rest of her hair. But I really love how you can see like it really is a true cool caramely tone, which I feel like this color is kind of becoming really popular, and I don't even know what to call it. Like cool caramel, like I don't even know. Like it's something like it's definitely not caramel because it has so much of a coolness to it. But anyways, it's kind of hard to formulate for because it's hard to know the balance between like how much cool to add, how much warm. Like some clients see any warmth as too brassy, but then it's like, where's the fine line between the color being what they want versus being too brassy or whatever. So because I'm kind of booked out, I wanted to make sure she was happy with the color. So I dried it first. I told her if we need to retone the hair, readjust it or anything, we can do it right now. But you have to let me know right now or else I might not be able to get you in. And I let my clients know that. Like, let me know right now. We can adjust it if we need to. But you can't call me in 2 days because I might not be able to get you in. So she was happy with it. We didn't need to fix it or anything. So also here's the hairspray that I use, the Kenner Volume Spray number 25. It has like a nice firm hold, but not like too firm where it feels like cement in the hair. You know what I mean? So we're just going to finish styling and, see the end result. And a lot of you guys ask how I get my curl. So I curl everything towards the back center away from the face. And then I go through after everything's sprayed and cooled down to set the curl. Then I go through and just comb it out with the comb. And that kind of helps like blend the curls together to give it like a nice soft wave. So this is how I style all of my clients' hair. And here's her before again. And you guys, this service took about 5.5 hours. And I did charge the full $450 and she was really happy with her hair. And that did not include a cut. So look at that blend right there. That's kind of how I was talking about those layering effect with the foils, how it's just really soft into the root, but then blends nice and melts kind of into more of a fuller saturated color through the ends. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like this long video, over an hour. You guys that stuck through it, you're my number ones and I love you. So I hope you guys learned something from this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one.